Okay, we are on Easy NFT 3B. This is a really big update, so I'm going to have a lot to cover in this video. So let's just dive right in. I'm going to open up Easy NFT. All right, and the first thing that's going to happen is it's going to be in window mode, so it'll be pretty big. No big deal. We could just maximize it so it fits the full screen, and then it'll auto size correctly. I just set it up that way, so depending on your system, you can adjust it as you need. So we're going to be greeted here with all of these input fields and buttons and everything. The only thing that you have to worry about at first is where you're going to be putting your images. And if you notice there that if you hover over something for about 3 seconds, it'll show a tooltip. So each field, I have a tooltip on everything. So if you're not sure what something does, you just hover over it and it should give you a little explanation of what certain things do. So, but the first thing we're going to do is click on parts path, because we got to know where we're going to be putting all of our images for our collection so we can generate a collection. So right here we can see that this is going to be the streaming assets folder, and that is the main folder that you'll be putting all of your subfolders and parts folders in. And I made these two buttons over here, the open buttons, so we can just click on one of those and it'll automatically open up that specific folder, so you don't have to worry about going into your window browser and typing all that in anymore. You could just click that button and it opens it automatically. So if this is your first time opening up this streaming assets, you'll see that it has all the default folders I have in here. So if you wanted to just start testing it out with the collection I already, or the different parts that I've already included into the Easy NFT package, you could just use what's in here. Otherwise, you can delete these out and then put your own folders in here. We'll just take a look at what's in here for the default. So here I have my different backgrounds, the different color backgrounds, my different bases for the frog body. Here I have the in real life frog option. So if you wanted to have more realistic looking photos, that's what these are for. These are the over parts for the base cartoon looking frog. So I got all the different eyes, the mouths, mustaches. Now you can see the naming conventions that I have for these. Let's go back to the backgrounds. So here with the backgrounds, I have the hashtag followed by, or the pound symbol or whatever you want to call it, followed by a number. This just gives it a rarity. So here I have 75% for this rarity. Now this is 75%, so it's this amount based off of the amount that you have over here. So depending, or right here I should say, the out of chance. So this is your out of range. So depending on what number you put in here, it's going to be that percentage or that number out of this number here. So it's going to be this one on the right. So if we go back here, the hashtag 75 just means that it's 75%. So it's 75 out of 100. This will be picked out of these backgrounds. So this one's 10%, 25%, 5%. Now you don't have to keep this at 100. You can have any number you want, but just keep in mind that if you go over 100, your percentage isn't going to be the number that you put here. It'll be a different amount. So say like if you put 200 over here, then obviously your percentage for this practically gets cut in half, I believe. So yeah, If you keep it at 75, that just means it's going to be less than 75% if you change the number in easy NFT to like 200. So it'll just cut that number in half. Okay, so let's look at the rest of the... And then for anything in parentheses, so if you had your hashtag rarity and then a parentheses on the end, this just means that you'll have an additional trait type that you want to specify for that layer. It's not necessary to, let's say like if you change your mind later, you don't want to have the additional trait type, but you already typed in all these parenthesis values. Not to worry, you could just not add a trait type and it'll just ignore the parentheses. It'll just use the name instead. But we'll go over that as once we get to it. So yeah, then I have my transparent background. This I just put in here just in case I ever wanted just a transparent background. I can just drag and drop that into any of these other folders. The hats, those all have additional trait types on each one of those. So now that all of the folders are dragged into the streaming assets folder, I can go back into Easy NFT. And then I can activate the created path. So this is going to be the path where everything is going to be generated to once you click on generate batch. So it's going to go and put all of the, it'll take all your layers, it'll combine them into one image, it'll create metadata, a manifest, and the image itself, and I'll put it right into this folder. So we can just click open, and again it'll automatically jump right to that. Here you can see I have a one that I've already done previously. I'll just delete these. I'll just delete those. So it'll look like this. It'll say easy NFT generator at the top. And then this is where everything is going to be generated to when we create our batch. So I'll just close these out. Go back in the easy NFT. So now we're ready to get started. If you have a collection that has a lot of repetitive images, and say like you're changing just the colors on certain things, you can click this to allow duplicates. That way it will keep generating, it won't get stuck in a loop. If you don't have enough images and you click generate batch, it will try to keep creating something that's not unique, even though you don't have enough images to make something unique. If you click that off, then it will just keep trying and trying and trying forever. It'll just be stuck in a loop and you'll have to force close the program. Otherwise, clicking this checkbox here will allow it to just find the next available image to be generated, and it will just keep doing it over and over and over again until it's completed. But I know I have enough images to make them all unique, so I'm just going to click that off. And that's all we really need to have filled out to get started on that. So we can just click File and close that for now. The generated width and height is defaulted to 1000 by 1000 pixels. You can change this, but it can't be less than 2 in each field. So say like if you start typing in, like, here, let me take the tooltips off here. So if you try to put in 1, it'll automatically default it to 2. You could just type in the numbers afterwards and then just delete out the 2. Just so you don't get confused on why you can't make something with a 1 right away. So like if it's 100 by 100, you could do it like that, or 10 by 10. You just can't have it just be one. It's automatically going to force it to two right away. But I know for sure that it is 1,000 by 1,000, so I'm going to just put 1,000 by 1,000 and get rid of that 2. And then the input amount, this is just how many you're going to be generating from this. I'm going to start with just, let's go with 25 at first. I'm going to make a total of 50 just so I can show you how you can do the batches in separate batches to create one full collection. So right now I'm just going to do 25 and just start going with typing in my layers. So my first layer is going to be the background. Forgive me, I have a little bit of a cold. The layer order is the place that it's going to be put in the stack for the layer. So since this is the background, I always put my background as -1. That way it leaves a space, leaves 0 for anything that I want to fit between my base, which I usually put my base at 1. It leaves 0 as like the in-between, so I can put anything that I want in between the base and the background at 0. And then automatically here on the drop-down list, it'll have those folders that you have in your streaming assets folder. So if we open this back up, if you take note here, all of these folders here will automatically populate right in here. So we can pick any of these and it'll automatically select the first of the folders that are in here. So these folders are coming from the folders within that specific folder. So it's pretty simple. You just click on what you want and then just keep moving forward. So this, I'm going to have my backgrounds, and this is going to be color. So then we will click on this Preload Assets button right here. Now just keep in mind that once you click this, we cannot change the folders here. So once it's clicked, it automatically loads it in the background. If you mistakenly loaded a folder that you didn't want, you could just delete the layer and just add another layer and do it again. So here we go. So now everything is preloaded in the background, and here I have a button that you can see. These are all of the images that are in that specific folder. Now with each one of these, we can bring out a specific one by just clicking off or turning the ones that we don't want to see red. So now I just want to see this pink color. I can click on preview random and it'll go right to the pink one. If I want to see the green one, I can just click the green one. If I want to see a chance between the green and the tan, I can just go like that and then I'll alternate between them randomly. You can toggle them all off, toggle them all back on. And this shows you exactly as they appear in that specific folder. So if you had a longer name, you can click and drag this over and you can see if it has a longer name, but just keep that in mind. If you don't see anything here and you know for sure that there are images there, just click and drag it over and it should show up in this top corner here. So I do want to have all those activated. Positions, I covered this in a previous video, but just to reiterate, this positions here, you can use the workspace to alter or edit the position of the images. So you just click and drag. Now when you get to a certain point here, remember, since I have this panel that's hidden here in the background. So it's going to try to pull on that if you try to click and drag on your image. That's why I added this button at the bottom here called panel mode. This just allows you to click through the panel so you can use the drag and drop editor. So I can just click on that to disable it, and now you can click on it no problem. You can even click in the panel window itself and move this around. I'll just put that back on, and I'll just clear this back out because I want to keep it in the center. I also added in, well, going back to the random position, you can put in a min and max value here. So say like if you wanted to go, let's see, the min value of negative 100 here, the max value of 100. So it's going to go back and forth between 100 and negative 100. And if you click on random position, it will just go back and forth. If you wanted to add some randomness to it, clear those out. Say like if you wanted to do the same thing but up and down, you could just put it here in the Y. And then it'll just go up and down randomly. Or the Z field doesn't really change anything with 2D images just because everything is based off of the sorting order up here. But once I do get into some 3D stuff, then the Z field will come into place. But right now, it doesn't do anything with these 2D images. So I'm going to just reset this all back to 0 because I want the background to be exactly in the center. I added in rotation, so now we can have the image be rotated. The X and Y give some like paper flipping results to the image. Usually you want to work with the Z field because picture like a spindle right in the center is coming right at you. And you want to rotate around on that spindle. You would use this Z field. So that's the axis that's going to be rotating it around. So just for example, where we want to flip this 45 degrees, it will flip it around that spindle or axis. But like I was saying with the paper flipping, if we do that here on the X, it'll look like it shrunk. That's only because it's flipping on a spindle that's straight across this way. So it's just flipping like if you're holding a piece of paper in your hands and you're flipping it forward or backwards. That's exactly what's happening here for the X-axis. And then for the Y-axis, the same thing. But it's just going to be left to right. It's like you're flipping a piece of paper left to right. That's why the Z-axis is usually what you'd want for rotating the images. And again, I have random values here that we can put a min and max. So let's say we want negative 45, positive 45. And it will alternate between those two fields there. You obviously can use all of the fields if you want, so it gives even more of a random result. So say like if I put negative 45 here, make all those, so then you get some really interesting results here. And just like with positions, you have the affect all toggles. This just means that every time the image switches, it'll also take in consideration a random image change. So if instead of clicking this button here, I can click on preview random, And now it'll take every new image that shows up and randomly rotate. The same thing will happen with the positions too, if you wanted to change the positions randomly on each or on all the images for this specific layer. So that just gives you some more uniqueness you can add to your collection if you wanted. But I'm going to clear these all out because I want my background to be perfectly in the center. Then we got the colors, color channel here. This affects the red, the green, the blue, and the opacity. You can adjust them there, the sliders, or you can type it in here. So it just all depends on what you're aiming for. There's also the options here for randomly changing all of these, just like the positions and rotation. You can click on these fields here and this will tell the program that you want those fields to be randomly changed, so you can click on this and it'll just automatically change all those. Or if you just want to use, say you just want to affect the red, you can check off those, just affect red. Just want green, or blue, oops, or just blue, or if you want green and blue. It's all up to you on how you want to create your collection. This just adds in a little bit more uniqueness that you can add for each one. And the same thing with the affect all image color. It's the exact same as clicking these boxes up here. It just means that on every time the image changes, it will also change the color or opacity depending on if you check them right here. So if I do this, just change a different background. It just changes it there. But I want my backgrounds to be the full color because I have them named here. They're all named specific colors. So I'm going to just keep them as is. And then that's the background. I'll add in my next. So this is going to be the base. Again, this will go on 1. Change this to base body. And I don't have an extra folder in there, so it's just base body. Click on load. You can see that there's 2 that I have in there in this folder with an additional trait type, so I can name that whatever additional trait type I want. So first I'll load it in there. I'm not going to change the position or rotation, but I am going to change have the color change. And the additional trait type, since I did have the parentheses here, you can name that whatever you want. So I want that to represent, let's say, power. So I have 2 in here. They're both the exact same image. The only difference is the name and the additional trait type that I have in there. So this just shows the power. Then I'll add another one. This will be the eyes. That'll also go on 1. Over parts, eyes. Load that in. I only have the 1 eyes in there. so there's nothing else to add. Add another layer. This is the pupils. This is going to go on 2 because it's going to go over the eyes. This is on over parts, pupils. Click on that. So I have 2 different pupils in there. Now with this, I am going to change the position randomly because I want it to make it seem like he's looking around, or that on each generated image it'll make it look like his eye look direction is different on each one. So I'm going to change the min value here to -20, +20, and then -40, and I'll keep it at 0 for the max value. That way it looks like he's going to be looking around on each generation. So I'm going to affect all image position so that happens even if the image changes. I'm also going to do a slight rotation to make it look a little more goofy. So I'll just do a slight rotation of like -10, +10. That way it gives it a little more goofiness to it. Okay. Add another layer. This one will be the mouth. This one I can also keep on 2. Now you see the white frog that shows up here. This is just an indicator to let you know that a new layer has been added. Because every layer that you add to the panel here has to be used or deleted. You can't just have a blank layer in here. You either have to do something to it or delete it. So this one I just have the mouths in there. I'm going to change the colors. Okay. Add another layer. This one will be the, was it tie? This will go on 3. Over parts. Ties. Okay. So these also have an additional trait type. So I'll make sure to add that down here. And I'm going to change the colors as well on each generation. Add a trait type. This will just be called defense. And you can obviously name your trait types however you want. I'm just putting these in here as an example. And it doesn't necessarily have to be just numbers too. You can have them as string values. So like the numbers that are in parentheses, you don't have to have those as numbers. You can have those be as strings or words. And then I think I'm going to keep this first batch like this, and then the next batch I'll have with the hats and the mustaches added. But you do have to make sure that you add that within the layers here. So add another layer. This one will be called mustache. This will also be on layer 4. Over parts, mustaches. Okay. So since I don't want mustaches to be on the first generation, I'm going to just toggle them all off and then select my no mustache here. And then just click on that so it previews to none. And then when I do generate the batch with the mustaches, I want them to all have different colors on each generated image. And I also have an additional trait type on there. I'll just call this fancy level. And then the last option is the hat. This is on 0 because it's going to go behind his eyes. So under and hats. Okay. And the same thing, I don't want hats for the first generation, so I'll just put no hat. Preview. And then the colors. And it had an additional trait type, so I'll add that in here. Let's call this hat power. Okay, so this is going to be the first generated batch. So then we could just click generate batch. And it'll go through and it'll take everything that we assigned. So the hats and the mustache, remember we kept those as none. So those won't show up on this first batch. But the next batch I will include the mustaches and the hats. So then the next 25 of the frogs will have those included. Okay. So to check and make sure that those actually went to the created path, we can open up the created path folder. And sure enough, there they are. We have all of our images. 25. And all of our metadata files to go with each one. So let's just take 23 for example. Open that up. And I'll scroll down to 23. This has got the diamond tie and the normal pupils. Here's the mouth one. Background's green. It's got the strong frog body. Alright, everything looks good there. Here's that diamond chain. Okay, so now I'm going to generate the next 25. Close these out. So I will toggle those all on. And then make sure that no hat is not checked this time. That way it always has at least some sort of hat. And I'll do the same thing with mustaches. Click on that. Toggle all. And then toggle off the no mustache. And then we'll go and change the batch size to 50. And then if we go to File, Start at Amount down here, we can change this to 25 because we're starting right where we left off, which is 25. Okay, and then we can just click Generate Batch. So now it'll generate everything to have at least one mustache and one hat. Okay. So now that it's done, we can go to our created path again, just to check and make sure that it did generate the next 25. So there should be 50 there total, which there is. You scroll down some more, make sure that the JSON file is all there. Now we should see two manifests in here for both batches. So every time you click Generate Batch, it's going to create a manifest. So we'll have the first manifest for the first 25, manifest 1 for the next 25. And I'll just show you when I open this up. And this just shows you each one in a manifest list. It gives you every single part that created that specific one. Okay. And now to quickly edit the JSON file. I haven't put these on IPFS yet because I just created them, but just to show you how you can update these so it looks a little bit nicer and a little bit more readable, we'll just update this real quick. So we have 50 of them total. Let's go to Easy NFT. And then this is where we'll start to update the metadata file. So each of the image names, we can put fancy frog with a space hashtag, because then it'll follow it up with the number that it is. Description, frogs that have class. My external URL, that's just like your website or your Discord channel or whatever external URL you have. So I'm just going to put my shop. And like I said, I haven't put these on IPFS, so the CID isn't here, so I'll just put what it should look like. So it'd be like IPFS ://. This would be the CID that you get from the folder that contains all of your image files, and then ending with another /. The royalties amount, it can go up to 10%, so I'll just put 10 here. And then this would be your wallet address, because you want to be the recipient of the royalties here. So you want to make sure you put your wallet address in this field. I have it set up that if you leave it blank, it'll automatically default to my wallet address. So you got to make sure that you put in your wallet address here. And then we just click update JSON. Oh, if you get this error, that just means that you didn't specify the data file. You just go up here, click on data, and then it'll populate that created data path, and then just do it again and click update JSON. Now it should say updated 50 JSON files. We can tab over. We'll open up, let's do 41 again. All right, and this is a little bit more easier to read. Here's our description, external URL, the image, where it's going to fetch the image from. And like I said, this CID would be replaced with the folder hash that you get from IPFS, where all your images would be contained. So that's going to be different. But when we put in that last /, it appends it with the actual name of the image. Same thing when we named it, so it appends the image number. 10% is equivalent to 1,000 points, so this 1,000 means 10%. And then my wallet address, and then all the JSON attributes and everything down there. Now we want to change the value types of these to not be strings. So this would be 0, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, and 10. So let's just change those. 1, that's going to be I'm going to just make them all boost numbers. So 1, 3. Five. And 10. So those are all the index numbers of the attributes. So if we go back in here, it should say boost number 5. So it's an actual number now instead of a string. Strings are anything that's within these quotes. And the index number just means that from this attributes, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and so on and so forth. So each one of these are now boost numbers. So it'll show up as a display type as a boost number. So if I go over to one of the collections I've done before, let's open up this. I'll open up this first one I have here. So if you go to boosts, it'll look something similar to this right here, like defense with the plus number. You can do a boost percentage, which would look like this with a percentage instead. If you did just a number, it'll show up like this. And then all the properties and the attributes will show up like this. And OpenSea automatically puts a percentage of how many have that specific trait right in there. Okay, that pretty much wraps everything up. In order to get your collection to display on OpenSea, you'll have to create some sort of smart contract. On my web page under the Easy NFT, I have some like simple contracts that show how you can mint your entire collection, so it would be able to show up on OpenSea. I'll just go to my site here. Let's go to Easy NFT at the top. And I have like a step-by-step that you can follow along here. It'll show you how you can get your collection onto OpenSea like that. There's a lot of information on here of creating a simple smart contract. I think it starts right here. What I personally do, I'm not an expert, but this is what I did to get my collection to show up here. My Fancy Frog collection. Yeah, so if you follow those steps, you should be able to get it to this point where your collection could show up on here. I did it on a test network, so I can make sure that it works. Highly recommend doing the test network first, just so you can dip your toes into how you can get your collection to start showing up onto OpenSea. And then when you're a little bit more comfortable, then switch it over to a mainnet. Obviously, you don't want your entire collection. You only want a part of it. So I just did like 100 here just to test, especially if you have a whole collection of like 10,000. But yeah, you can see here my entire collection. And I just followed the steps that I have in here. Alright, so that should wrap up this video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and that's it. Have a good one.